Shalom, shalom, family. Shalom, shalom. I'm going to say the Lord's Prayer, and then we're going to talk about some interesting finds that some of the brothers are talking about. So, our Father in heaven, honored be thy name. May thy kingdom come. May thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us each day our daily bread, and forgive us of our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us on a righteous path, and guard us from the evil one. In your name we pray. Amen. All right, so I guess make sure your sound is on. I'm checking the sound right now myself. I can hear me. I'm just gonna double check. All right. So let me just talk about an interesting find real fast. I just got to talk about this. If you guys don't already know, if you don't know about this channel right here, um, the Young Earth Creation, this guy, he's got a little team. They are very interested in going deep into these things, but no other introduction. Let me just point out what he's pointing out right here, this finding. Let me just show something real fast, and then I'm going to just talk about it. Why is this important? Why is this important? This is actually one of the most important things of our generations to understand. This is really interesting. Stepping first. All right, so what are we showing right here? Why is this find really important? Because as we've been constantly going over the information of the world, and you know how they got this gap theory. They got now it's a different type of gap theory. This type of gap theory is said the creation of dinosaurs and certain different creatures that exist that said millions and billions of years ago that didn't exist with humans, right? And what's interesting is I was just talking about this. I was just saying this when I was talking about the flood, that the Pangea splitting shows that it actually has evidence that it might not have been said millions and billions of years ago, that rather it must have been very recently that has split. Now, why is this important? Let me just point out something out here when I go into this thing. First, let me put out this little classic diagram, right? So this is a classic diagram. If you know about it, you already know what's their idea. They say all of a sudden everything was created and everything, and then all of a sudden you get some little life existing and everything. But at some point, when you get the millions and millions of years old, about this time, right, said 100 million years, 200 million years, and you'll say that would be like your Jurassic time frame, where you have your Jurassic animals and everything. But they found a really interesting footprint of a certain animal. I gotta see if I can type this whole thing of how this animal's name is actually spelled. I have to look at the same time because it's such a longer word. See if it actually text to speech it right, or speech to text it right. Or there it is. All right, so this dinosaur, right? They're gonna let you know that this dinosaur that said existed, right, 113 to 110 million years ago. They found a footprint of it, right? So this now just picture that. The reason why I'm saying is if you're like me, and if you was raised in school and they told you that these dinosaurs existed without human beings existing with them, this is ground changing because this fossil that's found, I'm gonna show you why it's unmistakable. How we know that this is really real. So just imagine being a human living with this thing right here. Just imagine that. All right. So look at what this brother just found. So what's interesting about it is not just that we have a footprint with this, is that the footprint, the human footprint, is underneath the dinosaur footprint. That means that it solidly shows it's not that a dinosaur was there and then a human walked over the dinosaur footprint, but a human walked and a dinosaur walked over the human footprint. So that's really, really deep. But I want to show you a little bit of this part. It's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy. So they already knew. They already knew that dinosaurs were walking with humans. So these creatures that they were saying was millions and billions of years old, that they were trying to sell the world being billions and trillions of years old. I remember, I showed you that they can't even explain to you how water was made. But they want to tell you when the dinosaurs existed and tell you that humans didn't exist with them. But what did God say? He said, on day six, he made man and he made beasts on the same day. And when Adam sinned, the fall began. That's when death came. So why wouldn't we see humans with dinosaurs? Now, if I didn't believe the Bible, this would have blew my mind. I would have been like, wait a second, this is impossible because we know humans only exist thousands of years, and dinosaurs are obviously millions of years, and they got extinct. There's no way a dinosaur can walk over a human footprint. But that's what we're seeing, and even it's saying here that these people had these footprints and was told, as it says, they were forced to tell the public that there were no human footprints in the park. Now this just blows my mind because it's like, why go to Disney World? Why go to Disney World when you can send your kids to school? You can send your kids right to school. There's no need to go to Disney World. There's no need to put on cartoons. Just put on the how animals came to existence. Just show the evolutionary story of how animals existed. Why are you showing them cartoons? Just show them evolution, because that's the cartoons right there. So the whole illustration that we're seeing with the massive separation of humans from these type of creatures, right? The dragons that the scripture talks about actually show. There's a lot of evidence that actually show this. This is the reason why this is important, because I was just talking about this. I said we have cave drawings of people with dinosaurs. We have all types of things with people with dinosaurs, but I have not yet seen something like this. I have not yet seen a human footprint with a a footprint layered on it, and then all the evidence behind it showing that it's real. And then people are still teaching evolution. This is the thing about fossils. This is the thing about fossils. When a fossil is found, let me make sure you can hear me with that when I say this. When a fossil is found, right, we should base if creation, if the world's creation is based off of real science and evidence, when a fossil is found, it should be right in the public view. Like, here, if this is changing the way that we see creation, and we're raising our kids, or people are raising their children, and people are raising generations, and they're getting them to believe that there's this giant stretch of the universe, and you basically are just a speck in time, never was made in the beginning of it, and you're just this thing that just popped up out of nowhere, and just what's the meaning of you, right? But really, the story actually shows more biblical narrative creation style, is that we're seeing humans with these said ancient dragons walking together. But let me just play this last part, because this little part right here is interesting. Then we get into something else. This is just really interesting. Gotta make sure I play this real fast.
We investigated dinosaur
Could you imagine that you're taught something, you already feel like your worldview is set, right? And then all of a sudden you see something totally contrary to what you're used to, right? And that's why we have made that note on a lot of interesting finds in America. And we will talk about some things that looked at like these years look very suspicious, right? There's a lot of blending and a lot of questions of if these years are really what they are, right? So let me just go to that note real fast and just point out something. What I was talking about. This is really deep because I grew up in my life and there was never no evidence of humans with dinosaurs. But this is a serious piece of evidence of humans with dinosaurs, which causes consideration of how old they actually are, right? Why are we dating based upon the layers when it might not be about the layering? It might not actually be about the layering. But remember, I was talking about some interesting things, how we talked about we found a bell in a set in the Carboniferous period, and we said we found a bell that was said almost 400 million years old that was found inside some coal and everything. It was a iron and a brass bell, an iron and a brass bell. But let me just go down to some really old stuff. Now look at this interesting find. We were just talking about this the other day, and a couple of different things. This one was said 50 fossils of footprints found in the sand. They said it was said 60 million years old. That's what they were saying. They were saying 60. Now that's not dinosaur age though, right? That's one thing to say 60 million is another thing to say 100 million, right? So 100 million is definitely a lot of years. So, but I was still suspicious about it. So I was like, this is a lot of years. This one is very old. It shows a lot of people, and it says that supposedly is very, very, very old and everything, different things like that. They talk about how they found humans in Greece, said over 7 million years old and stuff like that. They talk about a couple of different things when they talk about humans in ancient places a long time ago when we were talking about that. And I was like, well, that's 6 million. It's not that long ago. But we start finding more and more stuff. Remember this hammer we was talking about? This little hammer, just to show it.
The inner handle underwent the
I'll just
carbonization process.
show a quick view of
The
it.
hammerhead
All right, so I just want to show you
the
this little thing pretty much. I'll just give you a quick summary of what it is. It's a handle that they found and everything, and they would talk about it before. There's a lot of different things that were used to speak about it, right? They were speaking about these things when they was talking about, oh, they found some things with footprints and stuff. Let me just, I always wanted to read from this. It's like an old little flyer that came out. This is it's a creation of evolution. It says 1985 and everything. But they was talking about something really interesting, which was it was a couple different things, right? They'll talk about different things and everything, whatnot, right? They'll talk about how's their human footprints with dinosaurs, a couple different things. They pull out different evidence. But let me see. I'm gonna go to something on here if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it. I think it's really interesting because you get a lot of people that when they looking at these pieces of evidence and they're putting it together, they got to consider how they're going to go about the creation narrative, if they're going to go about it by the world's view, or they're going to consider what the biblical narrative is saying and everything. Let me see. I got to think about where this little part on here is. But it's just pretty much talk about that hammer. I'm gonna go to something else in this because I got to look at where is that on that one. But this one's a little interesting one. I'll just cite where it's basically talks about that. It says human and dinosaur footprints from the area. It says a man-made hammer which was found 500 million years old in a rock. So it just talk about pretty much a couple of different things inside of it. But I'm just gonna skip that one because that one we don't need right now. And we'll talk about some different things, how they found humans with jellyfish that was said 600 million years old. And a lot, it's certain different things like that, right? It's certain little different things like that. This is something else. We talked about this before. Remember I was talking about this when I was talking about that weird thing that we found. We found an ancient human, a little tiny human and stuff, and a couple of different things in the ancient Antarctica that used to be a rainforest. We talk about how it used to be a rainforest, and we found a couple of different things going on in actually Antarctica. So it actually is kind of interesting when we had seen a little bit of that, of how that world was in Antarctica, and got a little understanding of what we were seeing there and things like that. Let's see, where is that one? I want to make sure I click it, see where is that. Oh, not this one. Maybe it's this one. Yeah, this, not that. All right, but that's pretty much why I want to show a couple different things real fast, and just give a little idea of stuff. Like this one, this just talk about that, those ancient humanoids and whatnot that we was talk about that said 600 million years old and stuff. But this is what it basically looked like when they took it out of the rock and stuff. They say, oh, it was just a tiny little human and stuff. But it was just something. It was something definitely interesting to see. It was a lot of different things that we had talked about. That was things that were important to note. But this is why I wanted to go over this, because this to me, right? Even these people's story and the way that they break it down, the way they look at it and everything. That's one more part I want to go on here. One more part. Let's see where is that on here. It was really early on, right about here.
Enough. Real as the rock could be. The strangest things of their kind I have ever seen.
So we know without a doubt that what he's showing here is not just like some pseudo science. This is science that's not being put in the front papers. That's what it is. This is science and finds that are real. Like and someone will be like, you sit there like, well, what of it? Well, the thing is that just tells us that the world that we're living in, we have to have discernment. We have to. We can't now just sit back and like, well, we all got it down. Now we can just go about and relax and do what we want and forget about what we just learned. But this was something that I think, yes, everyone has to know this. I feel like every single person who is in the world should know this fine, because this is not something that you could just put aside, throw away, and say, well, that is just something that just happened. It's a random thing. It'll never happen again or something like that. But we know there's actually a couple different finds like this. But this one really took the cake, because if you've seen this, he is basically without a doubt that the human was there before the dinosaur. That the human was there before the dinosaur. So the dinosaur stepped over the footprint of a human, and that's just in itself just breathtaking. It's just breathtaking, because it just shows that don't rely on their time frame. Don't listen to them when they say millions and billions of years. Don't listen to them. Don't listen to them, because it's not. You can't date things just because of layers. You can't date things because what's inside of them, because they can't tell you how much was inside them at the start, right? That's just important to understand. So just wanted to have a conversation today, because it's been a little bit, and I wanted to give some room to have that conversation that I think is important. Isn't it interesting? Isn't that interesting? I really want to get more into it, go deeper into some more stuff into it. But I wanted to show that, because sometimes, get into a little deeper into them, it could get, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of shocking. It's kind of shocking on how much stuff they actually have compared to what they would try to say. Is a lot of actual things that would what's the word I'm looking for? That kind of just takes the cake, like what's actually going on in the world that we're living in and everything. No, I just wanted to show that because I thought this was one of the best. I've seen a lot of things before, but this is something that I have not seen. I have not seen with like a solid, real, like just look at that. That's a footprint. That's a footprint with a clear, because you can just see it. You can just imagine it. The person stepped down, and then later on, a dinosaur was walking by, and you can see how more perfect his toes are that stepped over the foot. So this foot is under this toe. This foot right here is under this toe. This is a solid source that can't be ignored. It can't be ignored. And I don't want I don't want this generation or the generation to come to forget this. I don't want them to set this aside and be like, well, that's not nothing. But this is so important that it really, and remember, what kind of dinosaur is that? Right? We're not just talking about some dinosaur that may or like some crocodile or something that you can make a mistake for. Is this giant dinosaur that walked over a human footprint. This dinosaur, this is Zach one. This is Zach dinosaur. This is Zach one by name. I don't know how you say exactly that name, but this is Zach dinosaur. Is that footprint that we're seeing there? I just want you to think about that, because when I sat there and thought about that, I just want you to think about that. That's what they'll say, right? When did humans? If we say when did humans exist? I want to think of like a more pinpoint question, like when did the first? All right, that's probably gonna tell you modern humans, but they'll go further back for when did the first humanoid exist. So that's how far they'll say the earliest humanoid exists. But there's some finds that's starting to show like 7 million and stuff like that, 50 million stuff like that. All types of stuff that's starting to go back to their said dinosaur time frame. So this right here is a drop of the water compared to their said time frame that they put this thing existing. So if we said that humans only existed at that time, yet this thing exists said this millions and millions of years ago, you see why when I'm saying don't worry about these numbers, don't worry about these years. When I'm saying these things, that I'm not telling you something unscientific. I'm telling you something scientific. I'm telling you that based on the actual evidence.
Displayed all 5 toes, instep and heel partially penetrated by a 3-toed theropod type of dinosaur.
That is a legend. This find is legendary. I'm telling you, this is legendary. This is very important. I have to talk about it again another time just to address why it's so important. Why is this so important? Because this is going to be set aside to remind of the fact that you cannot rely on the world to tell you how old it is. You can't let the creationists, the evolutionists, the atheists tell you how old these things are. They don't know that what's going on with the Bible. You got right now, right at this moment, right? We are seeing the signs of the time. And the lands of like England, British lands, they're having 100 degrees temperatures when they only had about 70 degrees usually at these times of the year. Now they're getting 100 degrees. Things are warming up. The season is showing, right? The leaves are bud. It's that season. And we're finding stuff like this. We're finding stuff like this. This is not no like, well, this who's pointing this out, right? Is it some amateur archaeologist or stuff like that? You got this from, it's just this, you gotta see this video. I'm gonna put it in the description if you haven't seen it. It's definitely worth checking out, because this right here just shows that we gotta keep on continuing. But if you guys are having any questions, because I feel like this find alone debunks so many academic works that people have no clue what this find actually does, how much academic works this actually throws away. I can't believe it. I cannot believe what I'm seeing. I can't believe it, because just can't believe it. I've been looking at dinosaurs and ancient stuff for a long time, but when I seen this, I thought to myself, like, this really, they really found something like this, and they're still talking about how dinosaurs are said millions and billions of years old, older than humans, and yet we got something like this that single-handedly was shut up every single archaeogeneticist or any type of paleo studies, period. Because this just says that you guys messed up. That's all that it says. That you guys must have messed up on understanding the years of those layers, because this right here can't be explained by a simple, well, it must have someone just stepped down when the dinosaur stepped down, but the dinosaur stepped on their foot. So that's quite amazing, right? They strike the head, but that's you can't do nothing. You can't change this. This is something that I just want to just brave it out, that his brother did a great job. I'll put in the description of this and everything, of what's going on here and everything. All right, so that's all I wanted to pretty much go over today. And I wanted to go over some other stuff, but this one I just feel it just needed a mention for itself, that this is just a legendary find. That for now on, right? If you ever see anyone talk about years and this is set like this and that and this and that, right? You can work with that. You can work with their years, and you can debunk that these years are not billions and millions of years old. They're just not. That's what we've been doing for so long, is showing that the biblical narrative is true, and that almost everything that the Bible says is affirmative. When it talks about the languages, right? The multiple different languages, the division of languages, the changing of who the people are and everything. The fact of how we had the whole world filled with a generation of people that are basically in a way related, right? We got so much different layers of evidence. We know the earth wasn't as old as they claim it is. And it's just, I just go on. It's just so much different things. I just can't believe this find, though. I just can't believe this find right here. So this is a very deep one. I think this is a very deep one. They had a whole team talk about it. They broke it down, and it's solid. It's solid. But I guarantee you, this is the only problem about this. Even though it's a solid find, and it's no doubt, I guarantee you, when it comes to teaching about these things, they'll never tell this to the schools. They'll never tell that they found a fossil like this. And even if they did tell it, they'll come up with some excuse. They'll come up with some reason or something. They'll say, "Oh, it's a bush that the dinosaur stepped on or something, and it looks like a foot, but it's really a bush or something." Which they would need such an explanation. They would need such an explanation that it wouldn't. It's just, you can't sell nothing else but a foot. That this is a foot that the person was walking barefooted. Right? It would have been something if he walked with shoes.
Controversy. Dr. Patton, in his lifetime of expeditions, has experienced numerous attempts to block, stall, and hinder the finding of the truth regarding man and dinosaur living contemporaneously.
So you got to see it. So I'm just that's what I'm saying, is that as a doctor, you got scientists, you got studying this one. This is something serious. This little thing right here, and I think others should spread the news. That's just my opinion. I think others should spread the news of a find like this, right? If you find some more finds like this, we need to put these things together, because this is a generation changer. That's what this is. That's you know how serious this is? This is as serious as the Piltdown Man. This is as serious as a Piltdown Man. Just like the way that the Piltdown Man conspiracy was debunked and showed that men were not linked to monkeys, because that's what that Piltdown Man thing was doing. If you know about that and everything, right? You probably already seen that Piltdown Man hoax, right? Piltdown Man hoax, right? When it says the Piltdown Man was right, the little fraud that they had going on, whatnot, big old thing that happened. But what was it for? Why was the Piltdown Man thing important? Why is that important to know about these type of frauds? because the Piltdown Man, as it says, also called Darwin's Dawn Man. Why is it called Darwin's Dawn Man? Why do they call it that? Because you know what the Piltdown Man did, or Dawson's Dawn Man. You know what the Piltdown Man did? Is that Darwin Dawson's Dawn Man? You know what the Piltdown Man did? The Piltdown Man did for a long time, for about, I think it was like almost a decade, like a couple years, 40 years, something like that. And it held still the evolutionary concept, because they had this back burner of a said human morphing from a monkey. And it was, and we know that that's impossible for a human to even have a baby with a monkey. There's never been an instant of a human have a baby with a monkey, right? You could probably find some mad scientists doing some crazy stuff, but this is something that literally, what's the word I'm looking for? It literally was one of those things that they was hinging at for a long time, and they just basically debunked it in 2016. This came on in the 1900s, and it continued on for a long time. It was something that was in the museum and stuff. It says the tank apparently had belonging. Just talk a couple of different things and everything. And they talk about a couple of different things. But I want to talk about, let me see if they talk about the what they debunked it on here. Let's see. Yeah, it was just recently that they debunked it, pretty much. And if you know about it, you know what I'm saying. That the Piltdown Man hoax was a hoax that they believed that was just bogus. That some reason they was holding that like a here's I'll let Answer and Jizz just get that little answer for you. I'm sure they could just, I wanted them to give you the little summary. Watch what it says here. The Piltdown Man fraud could be considered the greatest example of evolutionary gullibility of the 20th century. The fake human skull, right, with an orangutan jaw, right, cruelly doctored to look like fossils, where obviously they had seen it as a piece of proof of humans for almost 40 years. And as you can see, what happened right there, they said they had treated it as a missing link and proof of human evolution until they were exposed as frauds, right? But it continued on for a long time. You had a lot of people still continuing on with this. It was something, and it's just one thing out of many things. There's a couple different ones that it's just crazy. It continued on until they finally fully debunked it. I don't know if they talk about it here in 2016. I want to see if they got the exact information, or I'll probably just talk about this thing later, because it was in 2016. It's not actually and it actually continued on. It didn't stop in the 1900s. It actually continued on to recently, to very, very, very recently. Here's where they debunked it. Here's where they debunk it. Watch what it says here. Here's where they debunked it. It says, let me just go down to it. All right. It's crazy. And this is another example of that we got a Disney type world that we're living in. So in 2003, just talks about Miles of University reveals. I'm just gonna, what he says right here, that the chief suspect Dawson had made a career out of fakery. So a lot of the evolutionary concepts were leaning on that. But notice what he says right here about 2016. In 2016, a team from Liverpool, John Moores University, led by Isabella D. Goots, used CT scans, DNA analysis, and X-ray tomography to lay bare the method used in the creation of Piltdown Man, right? And it says their conclusion was that it was the work of a single hoaxer, right? So they finally was able to study it and find out why and who did it, and really break down the real answer. So they didn't finally get the full answers until just 2016. So they didn't know what was going on with that. They didn't know who was behind it, but they found out it was just one person and fooled a whole group of scientists. It fooled a whole line of scientists. Why not the dinosaur story? Why not the dinosaur story now? It's the new Piltdown Man. I'm telling you, this is gonna be the new Piltdown Man, and people are gonna be like, "Did you know they were saying that dinosaurs didn't exist with humans? Like, why would they not believe that? Didn't they see all the Didn't they see all the fossils with all the humans walking with the dinosaurs? Well, they covered it up, just like they tried to set up a fake cover for the Piltdown Man. So we're getting the almost the exact thing. I'm gonna go to that little picture. So let me see, where is it? Right here. This is just what's the word I'm looking for? This is just some powerful. This is just a powerful find. That's what this is. It's gonna do exactly the same thing that happened to Piltdown Man's false illusion. That it was a false illusion that had science, all types of scientists going. A lot of them was for it, and they was establishing themselves in that doctrine, in the evolution doctrine. That's why now what's their standing? What's their evidence for the evolution doctrine? Not much. They'll start talking about beaks, the same bird kind with a different beak, saying that that's evolution. When we know that's actually just mutations. Mutations just cause things to look different like that, right? All of us are human, but we all have different mutations. So that's the same thing with birds, right? You might see something different. And if you think about it, what the bird's beak is kind of like the nails in a way. And someone can have rounded nails, naturally rounded nails, and some can have these like square tipped nails. I know because I got kids and some have different types of nails. Some have like a rounded nail, some have like a square nail. And sometimes that can happen. You got different shapes of different things like that. But this is an example of what I'm talking about. When they try to say that was a missing link, right? Like the Lucy thing. You know, you if you already know, Lucy's a monkey. Lucy's not a human, right? It's a lot of different things like that. That's just legendary. So I just wanted to mention that this, I'm telling you, if more people see this and realize that this is not just a regular fossil, if this is a physical, tangible, touchable fossil, there's going to be someone who's going to touch this and they're going to put it on display and they're going to say, look, now consider, the whole world consider that we have humans literally that have evidence that there was a dinosaur that walked with them, that walked over his footprints. So that's legendary. This is just something that's legendary. It's just legendary. It debunks the foundation, because this is also, if I recall, this is also found in America or one of the far lands. It's not found in Africa. This actually debunks the out of Africa concept. This debunks that humans were only restrained to Africa for a said long time a long time and never interacted with things outside of the continent. But we see that that's not true. We see that that's not true. That we see humans were interacting with lots of things outside the continent. Even this giant dinosaur. That look at his feet. Look how massive those toes are compared to that. That's just amazing. That's why they went to Yellowstone Park, got some evidence of after the flood leaving the water and everything, all these animals and humans all in this little place. So much gold. There's just so much gold that it's just so much gold. So that's all I got for today, family. I just wanted to mention that. It's definitely worth a watch. It's, like I said, I seen it. It's super scholarly. You got eyewitnesses, you got scientists in it, you got doctors in it, you got the fossil, and you I don't know how to even look it up. I don't know if this fossil has a name or anything like that. It probably does. Probably talked about it in the video and everything, but it's something that we might go over and talk a little more into later on. Maybe I'll make a note and go a little more deeper into this because, like I said, remember I was mentioning before, right? I'm gonna just show it real fast. Show it real fast. You probably seen it. It's on a lot of different places. The dinosaur cave art. There's some real ones, not fake ones, but there's some real ones. Some real ones that have dinosaur cave art, like real dinosaur cave art. That was real societies that was drawing dinosaurs in the caves. And it's just something to know that if we can have fossil footprints, we can have drawings of humans with dinosaurs, right? Then maybe we should consider that it might be a possibility that, again, that we should consider that these years are more fit towards the biblical narrative than it is towards men's creations and everything. So very, very, very interesting stuff, I think. Very, very interesting stuff on that. So, amen. Amen. Isn't that something? That's crazy. I believe it. This world definitely would try something like that. They would name something like that. But if y'all got any questions or anything, let me know. Young Earth Creation, you did a great job. Did a great, great job with that find. I think that is going to most likely change something. If it doesn't, we're surely in a fallen world. It's surely in a fallen world, because no one can sit there and watch that and say, well, we got to consider this. We got to consider it, because it's not something that's just a simple find. That's a source that debunks many sources. You don't even know how many sources that actually this thing alone debunks on levels of levels of levels of levels. So very, very important. So that's why it's important to understand, just to do a quick summary on this. That's why we went over this stuff, over the root of stuff. Y'all willing, maybe this Sunday I'm gonna do a live. This is what I really want to do. Now that we got a couple different things done and got a couple different things done with the fossils, I want to start talking of the mtDNA, but also talk of the connection of linguistics to its ultimate root of how we actually know that humans linguistically have a tie, like how how in the time of Babel, how all the languages became basically like a one language in a way. That's what we've seen when we've seen all the languages come together. We've seen like this ultimate language and stuff. So I want to do a review on this one video that Jensen talks about the how you say the islanders, Pacific Islanders. I did a video on islanders, so I'm probably most likely going to touch on that, because it's important to know that the earliest D and E, so this is the earliest E. So the earliest E was about in these areas. So it's split from the Middle East, and E went this way and D went that way. So D and E split in the Middle East right here. And then this early E settled up here and at one of these different areas. So that's something that's important when talking about some things. But we'll talk about some of that another time. Let me see if I want to find this little thing on this real fast. So very, 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 very important, very, very interesting stuff that we're going to have a conversation on. I'm just looking for this little thing I wanted to talk about. Probably didn't post it on this thing yet, but I'm going to talk about a concept that we're going to see how the Afro-Asiatic, the Indo-European, the Dravidian, the Elamite, the Sumerian, and a couple of different in-between languages, how they all basically link, like how you seen a long time ago at the Tower of Babel, and then all of a sudden their language is diversified, and then a lot of people have different languages and stuff, because then you get those lingua francas and whatnot. Now I'm gonna show something for that, because I think that's an interesting topic. And we're gonna kind of change it up a little, talk about some of the linguistics and a couple things with the mtDNA. So I just wanted to mention that we now, for the sum into, like, we have more conversations on why DNA and stuff like that, right? If someone said, like, let's say someone pops up and they throw out, well, the oldest E1B1A is Mota or something, then yeah, we'll handle that then. But now that we're pretty much finished talking of basically some of the summaries of where these lines are, I'll probably do maybe some short highlight videos stuff. But this is the sum of why DNA is that. This is what we basically seen. So I'm gonna just start throwing on probably some white circles for where we'll find searching of the mtDNA. So we'll just put M, N, and L for where the women went in ancient time until Abraham's time. So we'll go just like the same thing, go as far as we could back, throw them on the chart just to get an idea on some ideas on what the world looked like with the women. Because now we see the men, we see that Japheth went north. Like we see with some designs, they'll talk about that, and we'll see about Shem settled in the middle, and then Helm mostly went to the south. And we're going to note with the women where they were moving about, just to get a little idea of some things, because it can give an interesting concept of stuff. Because as we see, just like we see from fossils, it was never the out of Africa design. It doesn't look like the out of Africa design. Rather, it looks like the biblical design. And that's what we're seeing, that things look like the biblical design more than it looks like the out of Africa design. So, and then remember, every other human that's other than the modern humans will be pre-flood. So wiped out lines a long time ago. That would be pre-flood individuals. So that's something that's very important to know about. So I'll talk about something soon, a little bit. It's going to be kind of, I think, interesting to talk about. That's going to basically bring a couple different groups together. So kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of like a blend all in a way, where it basically shows where it all began. So now we're just going to get to the roots, because we already talked about the divisions, why they're all divided. And now just to talk about the summary of those things. So that was just great, because I just want to end it on this, that sometimes when brothers and sisters are touching on these things, the problem with it is those enormous years, right? Because when we got to work with like maybe a couple thousand years off, things like that, just to show, well, we don't go with their years because we know their years are off. But when you're seeing years like millions, right? When we talk about Pangea and stuff like that, and they're saying that these things are millions and millions and millions of years old, it takes away the ability to merge humans with them. But now that we have that fact that humans existed, said hundreds of millions of years old on their time scale, that means their time scale is incorrect. They don't really know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about and when humans were created, and they don't know how old the earth was, no matter how convincing it seems. No matter how convincing, no matter how much science they have, this fossil debunks so many different scientists' conclusions, and all the conclusions of millions and billions of years is thrown out the water. Because it's either they say that humans were millions and millions of years old, hundreds of millions of years old, or they're saying that the dinosaurs weren't that old. So they have to compromise. There's no way around it. That's what this find means. This find that this brother found is that important. That's what it means. So if you might see it come up again, because this is definitely something that has to be spoken of and understood, that this completely throws away if someone says, well, those are hundreds of millions of years old. Well, here's a 100 million-year-old piece of evidence of a human with a dinosaur. So that is powerful stuff. That's just powerful. There's no other way to describe that. There's a lot of evidence I can show for genetics. I can show a lot of stuff for humans, but something like this is something important for every creationist to have in their arsenal. Anyone who believes in the biblical narrative should know this fine. So I just wanted to say that and get this out, that alone debunks levels of academic work. So with that family, may you be blessed, may you be beloved, and amen, family.